everybody, so welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be talking about 6 different studying tips for people with learning disabilities or how to stay organized with school and as well as balancing school with work. Just as a disclaimer, I'm not a professional in any way, shape, or form. This is just tricks and tips that I found helpful for me while I'm in college, because I do have a learning disability myself. I have something called Irlen syndrome, which is similar to dyslexia, except it works with different parts of the brain. I don't really know how to completely describe it, so I'm going to put links for the Irlen syndrome website down in the description, as well as Irlen syndrome. I have dyslexia. So time management as well as staying organized is very, very, very difficult for me. So these are just some nice tips that help me get through school, that keep me organized and on top of my game so I don't miss any classes. So there, let's get right to it. So my first tip is using Google Calendar, which is kind of a basic tip. I mean, I know a lot of people who use Google Calendar, but not to the extent that I do. With my institution, we have our page called Canvas, and that's where we see all our classes and stuff like that. And you have the option to sync your Canvas, like all your your workload and all the upcoming due dates for those classes onto Google Calendar, and those will update and show which days of the month that they are ready. Here, my Google Calendar, this is my class schedule right now, because you see there's no assignment. These little purple ones are assignments for one particular class, and you can color code them for different. I find those really helpful for days when I forget. If I have a test or an assignment due, I usually get an alert on my phone or ping or something that day or the day before that tells. Second tip is this app I use called Notable. It is an amazing app to take notes, because my handwriting, 1, is terrible. 2, I hate taking notes because I never retain whatever I write. And I hate taking notes because it's boring. And the great thing with Notable is it has so many cool things that you can do with those notes. Basically, with Notability, you have these different tabs where you can put the different classes, and then you can make a note. And this is the one I did today, where you can use different colors, you can write, you can actually, my favorite thing about Notability is you can use GIFs in your notes, and that helps me be more entertained with them, easier to study, and then I kind of remember those weird GIFs or GIFs, whatever you call them, whenever I'm trying to retain some kind of information. I'm using lots of different colors and all kinds of different styles and diagrams and stuff like that in Notable is very helpful, and it keeps it all organized for you, so you don't have to keep it all a bunch of papers and binders and stuff like that. Good for the environment too, you know, since you're not wasting any paper. Third tip is to use, it's kind of a stupid tip, but use my phone alarms. I use my phone alarms for everything, because like I said, I'm horrible with time management. So whenever I have a doctor's appointment, or like for short-term kind of things, that's like in a week or two and I need to get something done, like I have a doctor's appointment or I gotta take my dog to the vet, you can see her sleeping right there, or something like that, I use phone alarms. Instead of just putting it in my calendar on my phone where it just pops up and pings, if you use an alarm, it'll set up, you know, like a noise, and you'll know when you can go and do that. My next tip is, of course, for disability accommodations. Of course, if you have a learning disability, take advantage of those accommodations, because most people don't realize that there are more accommodations than what they usually just give you, and you have to ask for them, of course. So with my learning disability, I have extra time on tests. I can take tests in the testing center. I have the ability to record lectures. They're supposed to overlook small grammatical errors and stuff like that, but none of my professors really do. And most helpful accommodation I have is, I've had this for years, is not using a Scantron. And I think most schools have gotten rid of using Scantrons now for whatever reason, but when I was in high school, middle school, and so forth, we used Scantrons for like every test. And for whatever reason with my learning disability, Scantrons just did not process in my brain. And so my accommodation made it to where I didn't have to use a Scantron. I just wrote on a separate piece of paper my answers, and then I turned it in that way. All my teachers were cool with that. But in college, you don't really, I mean, well, my college, we don't use Scantrons. We just use like regular tests. And colored paper is a big thing too. Most of my professors are cool with that, because my disability has to do with color and black and white contrast on papers. So using a color overlay or color paper itself will help you retain the material more, as well as understanding what you're reading. So I find that extremely helpful. If you have a diagnosed disability, definitely take advantage of those disability accommodations. But if you do not have a diagnosed disability, but you may feel like you might have one, definitely look into finding a educational psychologist or somebody who is able to, diagnose disabilities. If you're still in school, the school should take care of that. Next tip is using an agenda book. This is the one that I use. I got it from like Aldi's, I'm pretty sure. So I know that's kind of basic and everybody uses one, but the extent that I use it is I have my class schedule at here, and I have it color coded to the days. Like this is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, this is Tuesday, Thursday. And then I have these little tabs, little sticky notes, and little stickers and stuff like that, just so it's a little bit more eye-catching and I guess reinforcing in a sense. As well as I use stickers too. I use a lot of stickers and lots of color, because that's just how my brain keeps things organized, and cross out the days as you go. So what I do at the beginning of the semester is I go through each of my class syllabuses and I put them in my agenda, and then I have them color coded here on the side, which ones, what class is what, and then of course I put in what days those assignments are due, color code it, put a sticker there just to make it more pretty, and then of course week by week I go in and put in whatever is due, whatever I need to do in the assignments and everything like that. And it's kind of a dumb tip, but it actually is very helpful to have like a physical copy to see everything that you have to get done. And I like using stickers, so it's very reinforcing for me. So whatever works for you. There's stickers, any kind of thing that helps draw your attention, or any kind of small little thing that helps like stick in your mind, like, oh yeah, that reminds me of da 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 da. Those things are small, but they are very, very helpful. My last tip is ebooks. I know I feel like this is kind of something everybody knows about, but the extent of most ebooks is some people don't know if you just get a virtual textbook, even if it's not like it won't read to you, you can set up on your iPad or tablet or whatever so that it does read to you, and you can retain that information and process it more than just staring at it and reading it, which I hate doing that. So I have it read to me whenever I'm doing something around the house. If it's like a lot of reading to do, it's just not something that I like to do. Another helpful thing is highlight different things in the textbook that I find interesting or that I need to retain. Those kind of information is very helpful. So like I said, I feel like everybody kind of knows that. Study tips that I have for people with learning disabilities is to, when you are looking at a test and you have a study guide for the test, what I do is I take each of the questions and then I find the answer and then I write it out on a piece of paper, and then I go back and forth to whichever ones that I do know or which ones I don't know, so that I can focus on the questions that I don't know. So essentially you're just writing it out and then keeping it together. So, and it's kind of like a big sheet of paper. It says like a flashcard. So you're looking at one paper has the questions, the other paper has the answers. And of course I use lots of colors and stuff like that, so it's more eye-catching. And of course the second to last study tip that I have is using Quizlet. I know a lot of people use Quizlet. Some people really don't know how to use it, but I find it very helpful for like any kind of short-term thing. Like if I need to remember, I don't know, different stuff for my job, then I can go on Quizlet, and 9 times out of 10 you'll find a Quizlet somebody made, and it's nicer to have somebody else that makes it, because it's a lot of work to make a Quizlet. But if somebody else has already made it, then God bless. And it's the best thing ever, especially if you have an online class. Just type in the answers and you're good to go. So this was my video on resources to help people with learning disabilities. If you guys find this helpful for you, like I said, not professional. I feel like some of these things are kind of obvious, but it really is a really helpful tool. Help you out in your studies, and I hope you guys have a good semester. So bye.